Lamination ladies and bunt boys. Grease your tins thoroughly. Prick your tender crusts before filling. And, sadly, this is the soggiest bottom I have ever seen.
It didn't rise. It's time to talk Tull to me.
Welcome back to the podcast. I am Count of Sealand, Owen Thomas Sade.
And I'm just regular old Nick McGill.
Together we are the Feckless Moans.
And this, my easy bake babies, is Talk Tull to me.
A scraggly settling in the proving drawer of prog rock in which Nougat Nick and Opera Cake Omen will slice, sample, and salivate over every single track that rolling boil rock band Jethro Tull have ever popped into the oven of their creativity. We will poke the gooey center of the Dave Peg Petit Gâteau, dip our fingers into Doan Perry's devil food, masticate the millefeuille of Martin Barr, and butter John Bundrick's Bouche de Noël. And if we can punch down our yeasty nerves, massacate the maracchinos of doubt, and avoid curdling our curiosities, we may tempt the tender taste buds of the Spitikaca of Scotland, the Tart Tartin of the tambourine, the lyrical Lamington, the Twinkie with the flute for a binky, the little ceramic baby Jesus in our king cake, a true crumb of the Coolins, Ian aerated Amandine Anderson.
You killed me at binky.
You like like the silly rhymes. I've been putting in more of the silly rhymes just for you, Nick.
It's because they up until this point, they were so infrequent, so it always catches me off guard.
Yeah.
You know, it's highbrow, poop joke, or Twinkie, or something else. And the rhyming scheme just really nails it. It's just very unexpected, and that's what gets me. Speaking
of unexpected, Nick, what are we going to be doing in this week's episode of Talk Tull to Me?
We are talking, we're still dipping our toes into Nightcap here. We are on to disc 2 already, and we are on track 3, Piece of Cake.
Piece of Cake.
Piece of Cake. As you said last week, this was one of the ones from later in the series. A lot of this album, or these 2 discs off of this album, are from the early to mid 70s. This is one of the tracks that was actually recorded in 1990 at Ian Anderson's home studio.
Correct. And as I alluded to regarding the personnel, we of course have Ian Anderson. We have Martin Barr on the electric guitar, David Pegg on the bass, Doan Perry on drums and percussion, and John Bundrick on piano and Hammond organ. That is John Douglas Rabbit Bundrick,
whom we just heard in Catfish, I believe.
We sure did.
Yeah. So we are definitely contemporary in terms of dropping this in chronologically on the grander scale. So this will be a big sound change from what we heard last week with Left Right, for sure. Prepare yourself. Brace yourself.
But a small sound change from what we heard 2 weeks ago.
No, it would be 3 weeks ago, because remember before that we had, what was it called? Oh, The Thin Ice. We had Thin Ice. So
that's right. Good point.
Sorry to belittle you in front of the audience.
Why don't you just piss on my birthday cake, Nick? No, please piss on my birthday cake.
People pay a lot for that.
Oh, they do.
So you've never heard this before. Much of, probably all of what we're discussing through Nightcap will be brand new for you. But this is another new listen. You said you hadn't even looked at the lyrics until 5 minutes before we started recording. So
correct.
So very exciting.
Yep. With that being said, let's have a taste.
Take your insulin and dive in. Is that how it works? I don't even know.
Yep, sure does.
I'm not a diabetes doctor.
I'm not a diabetist. Nick McGill, that was a piece of cake.
Omen, how does that stack up to what you were expecting going into this song with that tiny little discussion of like, oh, we're going back into the 90s?
I was not expecting this. I don't know what I was expecting. As I was reading through the lyrics, I was doing two things at once. I was trying to imagine how I would sing it, just based off how it's written. But then I was also imagining, well, how would Ian sing it? Because his scansion is often so unusual. And then listening to the song, it was much closer to what my original, like how I would sing it, looking at the lyrics.
Yeah.
It's a pretty straightforward scansion.
Yeah. It's pretty straight delivery. Yeah.
It's almost a little bit pop rocky, like in the way that Jethro Tull could ever be pop rock. But it's very conventional rock and roll in some ways.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it also feels like an amalgam of 4 or 5 other Jethro Tull songs where it's like, oh, this riff reminds me of this. This little turnaround here could be from this other song.
And it fits perfectly in the 90s in that sound era.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's great. Martin's guitar sound seems to be reaching forward to the late 90s, early 2000s.
Okay.
Whereas the drum work being provided by Mr. Don Perry seems to be a little bit retro, almost kind of that early 80s.
Interesting. Yeah.
Sound. Just on impression.
Yeah, I get that. The guitar is very clean. It's very, very clean guitar. Not like we talked last week, not like hermetically sealed clean, but it's very crisp.
Do you know what it reminds me of?
No, I don't.
Thank you for considering that question thoroughly.
Thank God.
.com, she bends like a willow.
Oh, okay.
In Piece of Cake, Martin is going be and holding that third note. In Bends Like a Willow, he's going be be It almost is similar to that riff.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. I didn't put those two together, but I do hear it, definitely, yeah.
Now, Nick McGill.
Omen Sade, yes. Omen Thomas Sade. Count Omen Thomas Sade, yes.
Thank you. You had Nightcap years and years ago.
No, I didn't. It's just, I've just exposed myself to it on Spotify.
Okay.
Yeah.
How have you found this song as you've been listening to it? Because you've listened to it a lot more than I have.
Yeah, I did go through a big stint of listening to it, probably the last month or so, kind of ramping up and getting prepared for this album. It does stick out in feeling very 90s.
Okay.
It's fun. I don't quite get it lyrically. I'm very much looking forward to getting into the lyrics with you about this.
Yeah.
Because I feel like there should be something more, but maybe there's not. I'm not sure. We'll get into it. But musically, it's very, very fun. There's nothing too in-depth. The guitar is great. We got keys, we got flute, drum kicks in, we got tambo splashed in here. Nothing complex, nothing complicated, but it is a driving 4/4. I think it's 4/4 if I counted correctly.
You're right.
So it's just, I think you're having called it pop rock. I think that's a good assessment in terms of what Jethro Tull presents as pop rock.
Yeah, and maybe pop is too strong. Maybe it's more accurate to say it is a little bit,
it's rock.
It has a mainstream vibe to the way that it is expressed, the way that it's composed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it's still distinctly Tull. One of the things that I really love about it is on that chorus, I Could Be On Your Shelf, we have Martin doing a quick succession of rising chords. Bow, bow, bow. On your shelf, and there's something that is so fresh about it. Because it does sound like it could be, a radio rock band, a more standard kind of 90s rock band. But it's a little different. It's got something new and fun and unexpected to it.
Yeah.
At 1:30, we have a really great flute and guitar breakdown where Martin is playing a lot of those long notes and Ian is kind of weaving his way in and out.
That's a pretty long breakdown, and Martin's through it the whole time. I was expecting it to go like, oh, now we get a keys part. And the keyboard comes up a little bit in one of the pieces, but the guitar is so strong through the whole thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
At 1:53, we have an unexpected, I don't know if it's a modulation or some kind of a weird turnaround with the chords, but it suddenly, just when you think you've got the song nailed down, it acts a little bit like a greased weasel.
Da, 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 da. Wow! And it renews the fervor.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's the second proving of the dough.
I think that's the part where the keyboard does kick in a little heavier and really, really reinforces the idea, the theme of what's going on through this solo, quote unquote, solo breakdown.
Absolutely. I had at about 2 minutes, 5 seconds that the Hammond organ. John Bundrick
Rabbit
really starts hammering on the Hammond, and it does have that beautiful old school organy sound to it. It's really fun.
There's something I was going to say I don't know if I would like it with any other band, but I think it's kind of a staple in some of those really good classic rock songs that just it tickles me every time. I don't care who it is when it's in there. It's like it just adds something to it. It really does.
It's almost like a stock character, In the theater, it's like you hear the organ and you're like, oh, this guy.
It's the archetype, yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
That's good.
Ian is singing it pretty straight, pretty kind of like rock and roll in very good voice.
Yeah, great voice. We get a little goat voice in here.
Get a little tiny, a kid.
Just a kid here of voice.
A baby goat, particularly on the word bowl, as in you can bowl me over. You can bowl me over.
I think I heard it earlier too. It's not a staple of this song, but it does get thrown in there occasionally. It's nice. It's accent as opposed to the actual structure of the singing.
I just want to listen to the outro one brief more time.
Okay.
Rather than a fade out, we have an outro which is what I would expect to hear at a live concert.
Yes, very live feeling.
Where you signal to the audience, hey, this is ending. Bam, ba-dum, bam, ba-dum, ba-wow, ba-dow.
Yep. A really fun button.
Yeah, give the lighting designer something to do the Broadway bump to. If you listen to Broadway tracks ever, like Broadway cast recordings, there is almost always a musical bump at the end. And it is called the Broadway bump, and it is paralleled by the lights because it gives the audience a physiological reaction to kind of shock them out of that song so that they applaud.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
It's really kind of a fun little thing.
Is that like a contemporary thing? Is that more kind of historical musicals, or does it span?
I associate it from kind of like Andrew Lloyd Webber onward. I don't know that you would hear it in stuff like in the Golden Age with the Music Man and whatnot.
Yeah, I don't think so.
It's probably when they started having a bit more control over the lights.
Oh, sure. That's a really good point. Really thinking to take advantage of that and use what you've got.
A Broadway bump is also what you use to refer to the cocaine that the leading man does before going out for the big end of Act 1 number.
I thought it was the pregnancy that occurs backstage during the run of that show. Oh, did you see Susan? She's got the Broadway bump.
Also a Broadway bump.
Yeah.
Ooh, there's so many things that could refer to.
So many.
Let's move on. Anything else to say musically about this song? I have something to say.
Please do.
I can't believe I've never heard this song before. I can't believe that this is not a more popular song. This is freaking fantastic.
I mean, Nightcap's been around for so long, and half of Nightcap was on other albums to begin with. It's so strange that these... Don't you even have the vinyl of Nightcap? Am I wrong about that?
I don't think I have it.
Oh, I thought you did. You're right. It does seem strange that some of these that are more independent and not tied to like the Chateau disaster, just like cutting room floor pieces, that they haven't been tacked onto things.
And there's so many of them.
Yeah. It's just like any of the others, though, I think back to that slew of bonus tracks that came with
Broadsword.
The
Yes.
slew of bonus tracks that came with War Child or with Heavy Horses, they're all so gosh darn good. But they're not out there until Tull puts them out there. And then there's a little hubbub excitement. And then that's it. But I mean, this came out in, what did we say, 92, 93, So Talk Tull to Me was not around in 93, Omen. That's all I'm trying to say.
We weren't?
You and I were alive. We didn't even know each other back then.
There was no such thing as a podcast.
That's true. iPods weren't even a thing.
They weren't.
Internet was barely a thing in 93.
That's true.
Kids.
I think that this just points to how prolific Tull has been as a band and how prolific Ian is as a writer.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just crazy.
He has so much to give, Omen, that much of it gets closeted away in a reel somewhere.
After making love to a woman, he says, I wrote a song while we were doing that. Ha ha!
He jumps out the window.
Nick, welcome to the second half of the podcast.
Here we are. We had nothing for the middle, so we'll dive right into the recipe that is this piece of cake.
The middle is just buttercream.
I mean, there's not much to talk about. Just enjoy it. Have you ever made a buttercream?
Oh, I sure have.
Do you find it difficult to do a buttercream?
No. I find it difficult to not make a buttercream.
To not eat the buttercream. I only ever made it once and it broke.
It's literally just butter and sugar.
I know. I think it got too hot.
Yes, common mistake is to do it in the oven.
Yeah.
No, room temperature butter.
That was very early into my cooking career, though, so.
Yeah. Nick, piece of cake.
Piece of cake.
This is a common phrase in English, and it means what?
If something is a piece of cake, it is easy. It's simple to do. It's easy as pie.
Easy as pie? Yeah, that's probably more than the American version.
What is the British version?
Piece of cake.
No, same meaning, different accent. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Got it.
There's a version in Italian in which I think they do sometimes say easy like making a cake, facile come fare una torta. But they also say facile come bere un bicchiere d'acqua, easy like drinking a glass of water.
I get it.
Yeah.
It's too long, though. It's too long in Italian.
In Italian, it's the right length.
That's what they say in Italy. Everything is the right length in Italy.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Piece of cake. So we have the mindset of something that's easy.
Yes.
Come running, go for overkill. If you don't come now, I'll be over the hill.
Come running, go for overkill. If it don't come now, I'll be over the hill.
Okay, interesting. A couple of idiomatic phrases already. Overkill.
Something that is more than is necessary, more than needed.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
And then over the hill.
Over the hill is, I have it as either away, like you've gone over the hill, so you're no longer visible, but also like 40. Isn't 40 over the hill, quote unquote, middle-aged?
Yeah, over the hill is always to me implied just old, whatever old means.
Oh, old. Okay.
And it's also a very kind of older generation way of saying. Maybe it is specifically 40.
I think it was like when we were kids, it was 40.
Yeah.
60 is the new 40, though, so.
40 is the new 20.
No wonder I feel 20. What?
All right. Tell me all right. So basically, if you don't come for me now, if you don't come and taste these cakes, they'll be stale?
Right, yeah. And we get into it in this next line. Gotta sell by date, soon be out of stock. Pop me in your trolley, you can start my clock. Well, all right. Tell me all right.
Gotta sell my date, soon be out of stock. Pop me in your trolley, you can start my clock. Well, alright. Tell me alright.
So that really solidifies the over the hill expiration date thing, because I'm only good for so long, basically.
I can't help but think about this in a sexual or romantic context.
I definitely get not even necessarily romantic, but like flirtatious and like start of a relationship feeling. It's not even necessarily sexual to me. There's a little innuendo here, but it's not like really slathered on.
I think it works both ways. I think it works anywhere on the spectrum of flirtatious to expressly sexual.
Sure.
I think what's amusing about it is this sense of there's a practicality, which is very typical for Ian, and a self-deprecation, which is very typical for Ian, saying, yeah, I'm a hot piece. I'm sweet.
But not for long.
But yeah, don't wait too long or I'll go off. It's very funny.
It is. Just for reference, Ian was 43 in 90 when he wrote this song. Or when it was recorded. I mean, I don't know when he wrote it, but.
If we're using that classical definition of over the hill, he was just over the hill.
Just hit it, yeah. Just went over, just crested.
As Shakespeare said in the song in Twelfth Night, O Mistress Mine, in delay there lies no plenty, then come and kiss me, sweet and 20. Youth's a stuff will not endure.
But don't you want to endure youth?
No, youth itself will not endure.
Yeah, you can't.
It's got an expiration date.
It does.
You got to drop it like it's hot.
Hotcakes. I could be on your shelf, could be the risk you take. I'm a cup of hot coffee, I'm a piece of cake. Piece of cake.
Be on your shelf, could be the risk you take. I'm a cup of hot coffee, I'm a piece of cake. Piece of cake.
So cake goes stale, A piece of cake even more so goes stale because it's cut from the hole, it's exposed,
And a cup of coffee goes cold. Now, this could mean that it's not so much to do with his age, but the freshness of his affection.
Okay.
Hey, whatever spark this is that we have, whatever desire you have for that cake in the store, you better act on it now.
Right.
Follow your impulse. Take the risk.
Because you may not want that cake later on.
And the cake may not be wantable.
Yes.
Your desire may fade and the thing for which you have desire may change.
Yeah.
I could be on your shelf. There's also the implication of like, you better buy me before Sweet Tooth Sally buys me.
Yeah, I could be yours. I could be somebody else's, but it could be yours.
I could be yours. It's a free market economy.
You could buy me up. No inflation, baby, until you want there to be.
It's either you or Diabetti. That's actually the name of a drag queen.
Oh, okay.
No. None of my material is original. God.
No, I guess not. Jesus.
None of these parts are original either.
Let's see. I'm the hot chicken in your superstore. You can take me home if you can take some more.
Hot chicken in your superstore. You can take me home and you can take some more.
I like the hot chicken in the superstore because he says soup in just the way that it's like hot chicken in your soup
Or store.
or superstore. Yeah.
Also, very interesting that the concept of a mega market, what do we call them? A supermarket? A supermarket.
Megamart.
A mega mart, superstore,
Yeah.
supermart, megastore,
Walmart.
Walmart. Anyway, the concept of a very large kind of industrial sized grocery store that had every bell and whistle that you could possibly imagine was kind of new, especially in England in the early 90s.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah.
You know, they were still transitioning. I think we did it earlier.
Probably, yeah.
They still had the tradition of you go to the greengrocer, you go to the butcher, you go to the creamery, you go to the bakery.
Yeah, right.
You go to the patisserie.
You make a day of it.
You go to the oyster shack.
Yep. Specifically for your oysters.
You go to the Pigfoot Pavilion. And the idea of a hot chicken, you know, like these machines that you can cook a piece of chicken and then keep it hot all day. So it's always hot and ready for you. That's such an American capitalist idea.
Yeah. The trays full of rotisserie chickens that were baked, rotisseried hours ago.
Or the fried chicken wings.
Oh, yeah,
the
right.
breaded
right.
chicken wings that I always love smelling and sometimes eating when I go to the superstore.
Chicken fingers?
Chicken fingers.
Or actual wings?
Both.
You're a chicken finger boy?
I'll finger a chicken. Jesus.
Bakeoff.
That's not my cloaca. You can take me home if you can take some more. I almost have the impression that like the shopper's basket is full and you're like, oh, but I need that one other thing. I can manage it. I can stuff it in there.
Right. I'm clearly not a necessity. You know, you've got your bread, you've got your eggs, you've got your milk. You filled your basket.
You do not need Friday and Anderson.
But if you've got a little more room,
right,
there's a little Ian for you for the taking.
You can take me home and you can take some more.
I could be on your shelf, could be the bread you bake. I can fill your larder. I'm a piece of cake.
I could be on your shelf, could be the bread you bake. I can fill your larder, I'm a piece of cake.
I love that phrase, fill your larder. We call it a pantry.
Yeah.
But the idea of, oh, the larder's getting a bit bare. Not I need groceries, but the larder needs to be filled.
It's so antiquated, but also the idea of the pantry and the larder is that's the stuff that you buy once and it lasts you a month. It's where you put your flour. It's where you put your dried grains and pasta. It's the stuff that you go back to over and over and over.
Yes. Although I think the further you go back in time and the less of an obsessive relationship that cultures had with refrigeration,
right,
the more you would have what we would consider go-offies, perishables.
Yep.
You would keep things that we would consider more perishable in the fridge. I remember visiting Spain and opening a cabinet and just seeing a plate of sausages. I was just like, you keep,
cooked, I hope?
Yeah. But still, the sort of thing that as an American, I was like, those should be in the fridge.
OSHA would shit a brick.
In France, they don't keep eggs in the fridge.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we don't need to keep eggs in the fridge.
No, it's a scam.
Yeah.
A big
egg.
Egg. Big fridge.
Big
Freon.
Who's benefiting out of us keeping eggs in the fridge?
Who came first, the egg scam or the fridge scam?
We'll never know.
No, we won't.
My favorite line coming up, show me Rosemary, I'll show her wild time.
Oh my God.
So good.
Show me Rosemary, I'll show her wild time.
It's a Gordian knot of puns.
Love it.
Rosemary and thyme, of course, are herbs, and it's spelled Thyme.
Mm-hmm.
Wild time, as in I'll show her a wild time, but also, and we'll all go together to pull wild mountain time. Will you go, lassie, go?
Yeah.
Kind of a reference to that old Scottish song.
I'm not sure it's necessarily supposed to be. Maybe.
Ian couldn't help himself.
No, it's in his blood. And Rosemary is capitalized as a proper noun, so he's clearly talking about show me Rosemary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See you at the checkout or on the credit line.
See you at the checkout or on the credit line.
I imagine this is a reference to back in the day when stores may offer you a line of credit independent of the advent of credit cards.
Right. So you either have cash or you go through a separate line where they take down what you bought.
And those are the options.
Yeah. Right.
Or theft.
Or steal. Right. Yeah.
Right. I'm your spicy filling. I'm your low-fat spread. Oh, my God.
I'm your spicy filling, I'm your low-fat spread.
It could not be more 90s.
Because of the low-fat spread?
Because of the low-fat spread.
Yeah.
That was the beginning of the butter as villain.
Yeah, I can't believe it's not butter. Country crock.
Yeah. Who the fuck gave me butter?
Margarine.
Yeah.
Yeah, they only showed that at late night commercials, but it was a hit. Yeah.
How dare you accuse me of eating butter?
Yeah, the fats became definite villains in the 90s for sure.
And then in the early 2000s, it kind of shifted back. I actually remember a distinct moment when my stepmother got so mad about, some kind of margarine olive oil spread. And she was like, it's got so many preservatives and things in it. If I'm going to die of something, I want it to be butter.
I mean, given the choice, butter's pretty tasty.
If a foodstuff has to take me out, let it be butter.
Let it be butter. A bullet shaped it out of butter.
Butter bullet.
Frozen.
I've got a butter with your name on it.
Butter sniper. And then this next line, I'm baffled why it's in here.
Uh-huh. I'll be your smooth rubber, be your pencil lead.
Be a smooth rubber, be your pencil lead.
Well, it rhymes.
It rhymes. The lead in your pencil is definitely a euphemism. She puts the lead in your pencil,
Okay.
Yeah. But why is it nested in the middle of all these food euphemisms?
Well, also, smooth rubber. Rubber is a British term for a prophylactic, a condom.
That's true. But I was thinking it was the eraser on the other end of the pencil.
Well, yes, of course, but I think that it's a double entendre.
Yeah. But it's here in this food song for some reason.
Oh, could it be that a pencil is what you use to make your shopping list? That's a stretch.
I mean, that's literally the only thing I could think of. It's the shopping list. It's the tally in the credit line where they write down what you've got, something along those lines. That's all I can think of to make it work. And it does, but it is a stretch.
It is a bit odd.
Yeah.
He's already used bread as a rhyme.
Yeah.
I like my meat red.
That would have worked really well. Yeah. Yeah, he didn't use bread as a rhyme, but he did use bread, so.
Why don't you toss my salad?
Could be the pie that you bake and then use bread further down. Yeah.
You know what? Maybe it just flowed out of him.
Like pencil lead.
Like pencil lead flows out of people.
You know some very strange people.
If you set me to simmer, if you grill my steak, you can bowl me over. I'm a piece of cake, piece of cake.
If you set me to simmer, if you grill my steak, you can fold me over, I'm a piece of cake.
Velvet Mondegreen.
Okay.
I always heard you can fold me over. I'm a piece of cake.
Interesting.
You fold stuff in while you're baking,
You do.
So
You do.
that's how I justified that.
Sure.
Whether in 1990 Ian knew the term to fold something into baked goods, I don't know.
Bowl me over is interesting because there's the implication of a bowl that you might
Right.
use for food, but also to bowl somebody over is to knock. You could bowl me over with a feather.
Right. Yeah. Bowling ball.
Bowling ball.
Yeah.
Yep. If you grill my steak, that has there's a meaty, sensual, corpulent,
Fleshy.
carnal,
Yeah.
fleshy implication.
Right. Yeah.
If you set me to simmer, have you ever used this phrase in referring to a flirtation or a relationship of like, ooh, yeah, I'm just gonna let that simmer. Like, oh yeah, I'm gonna let her simmer.
I've been with my wife for
You don't even remember.
18 years now,
Okay.
I think.
Yeah.
So probably not. But I mean, I've also heard it as just like, I'm going to think about that. I'll let it simmer. You just
Sure.
let it percolate. But it does have there's this heat connotation of something kind of constantly being at a low, steady heat
Yeah.
that can gradually cook something.
I'm gonna give somebody just enough attention to keep them inflamed and desiring my cakes.
My steak that needs to be grilled.
I remember a good friend of mine in France, a French guy. had a lot of flirtations. And he was always being strategic, trying to figure out what was the move. And I remember he said, and I don't, he said at one point, he compared a flirtation to a beef bourguignon, which is a beef stew that you have to cook at a very low heat.
Uh-huh.
And so he said basically in French, yes, I'm going to put this beef bourguignon on the small flame on the back of the stove. Meaning like, I'm going to let this flirtation continue until the right moment to dine.
It's slightly psychotic.
Well, it's French.
It's French. Fair enough.
It's French.
And that's it. Then we're at the end of the song. So there's no arc here. It's all just like, I'm advertising myself through food metaphor. Get in on this.
I can't believe we've not said this. Maybe it's so obvious, but I'm a piece of cake is a way of saying I'm easy.
Oh my God.
Right?
Yeah.
It was there in front of us the whole time.
Yep. There it is.
I'm easy.
That's funny.
Yeah.
I'm putting more work into coming up with all of these metaphors than you have to get into my pants.
I'm doing all the work for you.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's funny.
I'm literally like I'm an easy bake recipe. You just pop me in.
Right. Yeah. Buy that Duncan Hines brownie mix and that's it. Just throw in a couple of eggs and we're golden.
Wow. Did you ever have an easy bake?
No, I had creepy crawlers, which were the boy version of Easy Bake. They weren't edible, but they were like, it was like this liquid plastic that you'd put in an oven and then you'd pull it out and they would just be like little gummy worms and spiders and things.
Those were not edible?
No. Do you not still have the ones that I gave you?
I have to call my pediatrician 30 years ago.
They don't make them anymore because the things...
Because they're toxic.
No, the things that they went in were solid metal. So when you pulled it out, kids would just be like, yay! And then burn their fingertips off.
Yeah, the 90s were a different time.
They were. I think Ray had an Easy Bake, which was, they were literally just a light bulb.
Yeah.
You'd turn the thing that would lock the tray in the oven, and that would also activate the light, and then you just let it sit.
That reminds me, how many other Tull songs that are gastronomical are there?
I feel like there have to be some, right?
The content of Night in the Wilderness is pretty gastronomical.
I don't remember that at all.
Am I the stab with your crab? Who's got the lobster on my blobster?
It's my favorite part. Lobster on my blobster will go down in infamy.
What else?
I don't know. I'm perusing. I mean, John Barleycorn, kind of.
Yeah. I was thinking of that or a Cup of Wonder, but those are more drinky oriented.
Yeah. Imbibitory.
Yep. There are some that are fumitory in nature.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh, Paradise Steakhouse, of course.
Oh, sure. Yep.
Oh, Like a Tall Thin Girl has the curry reference.
Yep. It seems surprising that there are not more for some reason.
Well, often I think there's a tendency in Ian's writing to focus on more the ethereal, more these ineffable moments, and there's something very, very literal and down to earth about food.
Yeah, even though all of this is metaphor, it does anchor you in, well, everybody can experience a steak, cake, bread, blobster.
Steak cake. Blobster. Would you like some bremen with your blobster?
Hollandaise sauce. Next week, as you know, next week we are talking Silver River Turning, which is track 5 off of Nightcap, disc number 2. That is also recorded in 90. from the same time in the Ian Anderson home studio.
Great.
3, 5, 8, and 14 were all there.
That's right. Until next week, if you can take some more, why don't you take some more of our branded Talk Tall to Me merch? You could be sipping your comestibles out of a branded Talk Tall to Me mug, and they really are quite cool. A nice size.
They're mug-sized. It's perfect. If your larder is running low, you can stock up on additional podcasts.
Yes.
By subscribing to our Patreon. Very simply, you will get 2 extra podcasts a month, plus the entire back catalog, which is several years worth now at this point. And you get access to our Discord, so everyone else will help fill your larder as well in that Discord. Until next week, my sell-by date is well past. I'm Nick McGill.
I wish my spread was low-fat. I'm Omen Thomas Sade.
You can pop us in your trolley. You can start our clock. We are the Feckless Momes.
And get it while it's hot. Soon we'll be over the hill. This is Talk Tell to Me. Daniel Cockermouth is baking today a lamington with a center of fresh sin. When not baking in the tent, he lives in Bushy Gap with Mother, Demon, and his 73 cats. He tests out his bakes on unsuspecting orphans who have no choice but to eat them. Today, he'll be using cyanide from his own garden.
Youngest person in the tent, Nigel Bushwick, has brought his very own baking dish today, in which he's baking a trainer. He has filled it with choux pastry and his own whipped cream flavored with lavender. When he's not baking, he is spending his free time at Satin Upon Gravy, where he loves to read books about clotted cream and fish.
Meg Pastor Prime has been dead for 30 years, but that doesn't stop her from trying out her bakes in home Beef Lane in Oxfordshire. When she takes the train to Dicksmount, she always gets freshly spotted dicks from the dickberry bushes that grow wild. Today, she'll be baking a friar's entry, baked in an actual friar's entry. For legal purposes, we are unable to show this bake.
And the last surviving member of the tent this week is Veronica Veronicae, and she is baking her favorite dish that she used to bake for her gran. She's baking a rice pudding on a field of lettuce. When she's not baking, Veronica loves to stand outside of Buckingham Palace and scream for the Queen. She loves in particular to scream about her favorite podcast, Talk Tull to Me. And she likes to say that it's a proud member of the Feckless Momes audio network.
Until next time, from Shitlington, this is the Feckless Momes Baking Extravaganza.